My name is Charles Harrell, and I'm here with Mr. Arnold Crump, interviewing him for the Veterans History Project. Mr. Crump, for the record, can you please state your full name?
Arnold Wayne Crump.
And your place and date of birth?
Ogdensburg, New York, born December 23rd, 1923.
And what is your current address?
It's 2703 Dawson Avenue, Wheaton, Maryland, 20902.
I've met Mr. Crump down at the air show in Manassas in 2004. What branch of service did you serve in, sir?
Army Air Force.
And what was your rank when you went in and when you came back out?
When I went in, I was a citizen, because it was had private can get. When I came out, I was a tech sergeant.
And where did you serve?
I was two tours of duty overseas. One was with the 8th Air Force, stationed in England, Bungay, England. After I completed my missions, I came back and got additional training in advanced radio and radar, and went back overseas for the Air Transport Command, Army Air Transport Command, stationed in India. I was in India. We flew the hump between China and Cairo, Egypt.
Mr. Crump, can you tell me a little bit about your parents and where and how you grew up?
Well, I was born, of course, in Ogdensburg, and my father died when I was 8 years old.
Do you remember your father?
Yes.
What is one memory that you can share with us?
Well, once in our home in Ogdensburg, we had a nice backyard, and in the wintertime, we froze over the backyard, and we ice skated in the backyard. And so that was one of my fond memories of skating in the backyard in Ogdensburg. Of course, I'd say my father died when I was 8 years old, and my mother had a hard time of it. And we moved to Madrid, New York, where she had my uncle's, I guess it was my uncle, had a farm there in Madrid, very small town, and so that's where I went to grade school.
What did your dad and mother do for a living?
Well, he was a farmer to begin with. When they were first married, they were farmers. He was born in Canton, New York, which is the town seat of St. Lawrence County. And so, of course, he didn't own the farm. He rented the farm out. Then he went to, I remember he drove a Coney vacuum truck. And of course, that was after, I remember he had a farm, he worked on a farm in the St. Lawrence River near Waterlington, New York. And but I think my sister had contracted TB there. The herd had tuberculosis, so they had to get rid of the farm and the cows, and she, of course, survived the TB. But it was that was one thing I remember about growing up.
What were their names?
Your
father and mother?
Earl Wayne Crump, and my mother's name was Sarah Alice Arnold. That's where I got my first name. It's the same as her last name. And
did you have brothers and sisters?
I had two sisters. June Crump, her married name is Claremont, June Claremont. And she was 5 years older than I was. And I have another sister who was 3 years younger, Eleanor Crump. And June was a nurse. In fact, she was professor of nursing. She went to nursing school in Central Islip, Long Island. And she got her advanced degree in Columbia, I believe. And I have a book of a who's who's of nursing, and she is registered as a professor of nursing in the who's who's of professors.
How did your father pass on?
Well, he was servicing his truck in a garage, security truck, and he was running. He goes down there, and starts the truck up, and he fell asleep inside the garage, and someone shut the door on the garage, and so he died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So,
when your mother moved to the other town to live, was it next to her brother or your dad's brother?
His brother.
Right.
I guess it was one of my uncles.
Was it during the Great Depression by that time?
Well, see, that would be pretty much the...
Did she get a job?
Yeah, well, she worked... She started up a restaurant. The name of the restaurant was Crump's Quick Lunch. And so hamburgers, anything. She was famous for her pastries, pies and cakes. And so I think I was in the 3rd grade at that time. And one of the men that kept coming back for her pastries, he liked her pies and cakes. And first thing you know, I got married, and we moved out in the country in a little town called Bucks Bridge.
Your mother got remarried, is that what you mean?
Yeah. I was 10 years old at that time when she remarried.
What was his name?
Eugene White. And he had 2 sons. One of them was blind. He'd been blind ever since he was born. He was born blind. And he didn't live with us. He was in a institution for the blind. But his older brother stayed at the farm. And it wasn't really a farm, it was a place in the country. And they had a post office and a church and a bunch of neighborhood farms that was all around. And
did Mr. White act as your father, or was he not that close?
Well, to begin with, of course, I resented the fact that he wasn't my father, and he was strict, and probably needed to be. But the house we lived in hadn't been taken care of, had no running water, no electricity. We burned coal. The windows, the window panes were broken out. We stuffed papers in them to keep wind and cold out. Of course, this was upstate New York, where we had heavy snow, cold winters. I used to get up in the morning, start the fires, and we couldn't take any glass of water up to a bedroom with us because the water would freeze. So when you got in bed at night, you stayed in one spot, you didn't move. You had to keep warm. And there were 2 bedrooms upstairs. My younger sister had one, I was in the other one. And the stovepipe went up through her bedroom, nothing went up through mine. But of course, fire went out at night, so that didn't help too much either. But we had to work. I remember picking strawberries, 5 cents up front at the neighbors who strawberry plants. And I helped out in the summertime with farmers. I'd help them with the electricity went off. They had to milk the cows by hand. And I'd go up and help milk the cows. And was a little bit too young to work in the fields with heavy work, but they had me pulling weeds out in the fields. And during harvest time, I did help with driving the horses. We didn't have tractors. And
did your mother still run the restaurant?
No, once she married, she quit the restaurant business. And interesting, I still have the sign that was her restaurant. I still have that downstairs. And planning on finishing it off and giving it to one of my sons. And it just had Crumps on it. And that flew over the restaurant my mother had.
Did you continue with your schooling when your mother?
Yes. When we moved out to Bucks Bridge, of course we were 3 miles away from the town school, but they had a country school. It was a 1-room schoolhouse. And we probably walked about half a mile every day to the schoolhouse, across the bridge. And I know some of the kids thought they were smart. In the wintertime, they tried to stick their tongue on the iron bridge, which wasn't very smart. But
do you remember your teachers, or a teacher in particular?
Juanita, we had one teacher. She taught all the grades. And so, actually, by the time I got up to 7th grade, I was able to, I'd been listening to 2 or 3 grades. And so I skipped the 7th grade basically and went right into 8th grade. Well, because I was listening to the 7th grade never taught, so New York State, we had the regents. And so before we could go up into high school, we had to pass the state regents. So that made us at the same level. I had always had trouble with spelling, but my mother worked hard. She, God bless her, she worked very hard to get me to pass the spelling regents, not pass the spelling regents. But I didn't pass history. I was able to retake that my first year of high school, and I became very much interested in history. So I took all the history I could get in high school, and because the high school was about 2.5 miles down, or 3 miles down the other way, and we had to walk a mile down to the school bus, and because that was quite exciting during the wintertime. And I remember one of my dear friends, girls are very vain. They didn't like to wear stockings, and get about halfway down towards the school bus, and her legs would be almost ice cold, and she'd stop because she felt warmer when she stopped walking. But our job was to keep her pushing and get her down to the school bus. And when we got onto the school bus, was a minister, and when we got down to his house, he'd invite us in to get warmed up before the school bus came. And he was a dear man. He had 2 sons, very, very intelligent, very smart. And they took piano lessons. And I remember while we're waiting, he'd play the piano for us. And later on,
What was his name?
Reverend Harry, Hayey, and the older boy, my age, was killed. I'm not sure how he died, but I know he was in an accident that killed. And the younger boy became a state representative of New York State. He was a congressman in New York State. But when they left home, every once in a while they needed someone to stay with the Reverend who had poor health. And I'd go down and sit with him. And I still have the little Bible he gave me, that New Testament. And I carried through that with me all the time I was in the service. And so that was a good bearing on my life.
Were you religious when you were a young man?
Well, very much so. We only about 300 or 400 yards from our church out in Bucks Bridge. And
what was your church name?
It was a Methodist church.
Methodist.
Bucks Bridge Methodist Church. And I ended up, as I was going through high school, being the janitor of the church. And I'd go down and open up the church and dust it. And during the winter time, I'd start the fire and make sure everything was right. And of course, in the country church, we had ice cream socials, and we'd have these big handmade ice cream machines, and I'd have to crank up the ice cream makers. And so it was very nice.
Do you think your family had it a hard time during the Great Depression?
According to days, we probably did, but on the farm we raised gardens, we canned food, we raised chickens and canned vegetables, canned chickens, and we killed hogs and canned the meat, and so we didn't know we had it hard. We, of course, we didn't have everything we needed, and the money I earned during the summer times went towards books and went towards clothing, and it was quite a treat when I finally got my bike, and I enjoyed riding my bike.
Tell me about how you got your bike.
Well, I remember that I had to pay for the bike out of the money I earned. Of course, 5 cents a quart picking strawberries. Took quite a few quarts of strawberries, plus working for the farmers. And the farmer next door always had jobs that, like in the spring, he'd have the sheep pen that needed to be cleaned out. Sheep had been in there all winter long. And in the spring, he'd like to clean out the bedding. And that was quite a smelly job. And I remember he had a well in the barn that the rats or somebody got in and had decontaminated the well and had to be drained, and so he hired me to help drain that out. And there was always some odds and ends jobs like that I was able to help out with. And of course, back in those days, especially the farmer right next door to us, he had a hired man, and that hired man was a great guy. He worked early in the morning, milked the cows. He was there all day, went back to chores at night. He made $60 a month, and he thought he was well paid. And I guess he was at that time. Money didn't go too far.
Did you have any special friends that you were very close to in high school?
Well, yes.
Can you name them and tell me about them?
Well, I had Charles, let's see, Charlie, he lived just down the street. He had a farm. Wilcox, he was the adopted son of the Wilcox was his name. His name was Darling, Charlie Darling. And we were, of course, always went to basketball practice together. We rode our bikes, even during the wintertime. Once such a crowd had made a path for us, we rode our bikes 3 miles down to practice basketball. And we were on the same basketball team. And so even today, when I go up home, he's still alive. And we visit and remember the old times we used to have. Then I had another close friend who was my best man when we got married. And we used to go fishing and hunting together. And he married one of the neighborhood girls that I went to school with. And she was one of the girls that I had to help push down the road so she wouldn't get too cold. But they got married, and I was the best man at their wedding. And
well, as the war got closer, when 1938 and 39 and 40 was coming along, how did you feel? What did you know?
well, the biggest, remember Pearl Harbor, I guess. It was a big,
Can you recall exactly where you were when you first heard about Pearl?
no, see, 41, yes. I graduated in 1940 from high school. I was 16 at that time. And the following year, I took a postgraduate course. I was too young to go to college and didn't have the money to go anyway. So my uncle got me a job at the Binghamton State Hospital in Binghamton, New York. At 7, I'm back with my postgraduate course at 17, and it was the May of the following year that I went down there. I didn't finish my postgraduate course, I went to work. But at that time, 1941 was already passed. So I guess I don't remember exactly
When you heard about Pearl
when I
Harbor?
heard about that, but I know, I remember my uncle and the men that worked for him were all gung-ho to go to war. And my uncle, he had problems, I guess, and he wasn't eligible to go. He was food manager at the state hospital, and they were about to let him go. They needed him. So, but some of his buddies went and we did CBs, and so my uncle was a great hunter. He gave me, he bought me my first gun, and took us hunting. He had a bird dog. I helped him train the bird dog to shoot pheasants. And so we were very close. He had 4 kids.
What was his name?
Ralph.
Ralph?
Was my mother's a younger brother. And so I spent a lot of time with him. Even though I was away from home, I was able to spend a lot of time with his family. He taught me how to play chess and checkers.
When you were away from home in Binghamton, did you feel like you were starting a career that you'd like to continue with, working at the hospital?
No, I had wanted to go to college. I was very much interested in chemistry, and I went to St. Lawrence University, which is a university in Canton, New York, not far from home. But again, I was only 16 at the time I graduated. And I wasn't able to afford college, but so where was I?
I'm trying to get to what you were doing before the war started.
Up until I guess I was working for my uncle in Binghamton. I was at a state hospital, and I wasn't pretty young to start cooking right away. So I always enjoyed cooking, and I was a dishwasher at night.
A dishwasher.
So I washed dishes there at night at the state hospital, and gradually he got me working as an assistant cook in the kitchens, and so up until then, until I was drafted into the service, I worked as an assistant cook at the Binghamton State Hospital.
So you didn't want to go into the service?
Oh, I was drafted.
So you didn't enlist?
I did not enlist. It was the thing to. I had no choice, really.
Did you find that your friends were enlisting and going off to war?
No, because I guess I was away from home. I didn't have many childhood friends at the hospital, and the ones that were old enough, I guess they were drafted too. So.
Were you writing still regularly to your mother or contacting her?
Oh, yeah. Probably not as often as I should. But
the day you got your induction notice, where did you go?
Should I have to interrupt you for a minute?
You're heading down towards your induction into the service. Can you tell me where you went and what you were feeling?
Well, of course, we went down to I was drafted, we went to the Armory in Binghamton.
Okay, honey, bye.
And we went through the physical, and wasn't long after that, we got notice to report to Fort Niagara. And we left, that was the 28th of January of 43, and we left the Armory, Binghamton, took the train to Buffalo, New York. We got stationed at Fort Niagara on January 28th, and they had about a 3-foot snowstorm right after we got there. So I remember the snowbanks and the cold weather that we had there at Fort Niagara. And there was a whole group of us men that went at the same time, which is another side story.
Did you know any of these other guys?
Did not know any of them. But I became very friendly with a man called Henry Nebo. And in fact, the day I met you at the air show, he was supposed to come with me, the two of us. He was also in the 8th Air Force. And but that's digressing a bit, but we'll get back to that. We corresponded during the war, and he was a flight engineer and top turret gunner. Of course, I was a radio operator, top turret gunner, and one of the letters he sent me came back to him, saying I was dead, deceased. And but obviously, I'm not. I'm here. But it's a side story. He decided to go to college, Clarkson College, in Potsdam, New York, which is about 9 miles from Madrid. I was going. I decided to go to college the same day. We both went under the GI Bill of rights, and as I walked up the steps the first day of college, he couldn't believe his eyes. he thought he saw a ghost. It was me. So we roomed together, stayed together all through college, and he married a girl that he met up there in Potsdam, New York, who also was a friend went to high school with my wife, who I met when I was in college. So anyway, he's the reason he did not come with me. His wife had surgery, and he was unable to come with me down to the air show. But we still correspond, and he brought me a whole bunch of CDs, World War II CDs, and to help me. And I still have them, and I enjoy them so much that, in fact, my wife and I listen to the songs and have fond memories.
Do you remember anybody else with that group, or was it just that one man?
Well, that was a group that went in at the time of induction. I don't remember. He was the only one I remember that went in at that time. And I didn't want to be a cook. I wanted to be a pilot. And well, he wanted to be a pilot too. But at that time, he ended up in flight engineering school, and I ended up in radio school. But we both ended up in gunnery school in Tyndall Air Force Base. Not at the same time, but we both went to gunnery school.
Where was that?
In Tyndall, I think, down in Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first day that you had basic training?
Yes, first day of basic training. It was cold.
Was that at Niagara?
Niagara, yeah. Fort Niagara, right off Lake Ontario. And
what was racing through your mind besides the coldness?
Well, I guess probably at that time I was wondering whether I was going to have KP or not. Because they had to keep us busy, and that was one way to keep us busy, working in the kitchen. And of course, I had experience working in the kitchen, but that was my other concern was whether I'd be able to go on to get pilot training, or whether I'd going to stay in the service as a cook. And I didn't. Of course, I had experience with large-scale cooking, because when we cooked at State Hospital, we cooked in big pans and big volume, and probably very well suited to the type of cooking that you'd be doing in the service. But I decided I wanted to be a pilot.
Did you test?
Yes.
How did you score?
Very high. I was a very good student, and probably one of my highlights in high school was my math and science, and that spoke very well for me on these tests. And of course I passed, had no problem with my physical. Went to this. From there, they sent me down to Nashville, Tennessee, where they gave me more training and more examinations. And
still in the cadet program?
Well, hadn't quite made, I was ready to go into cadets. But before I get into formal of that training, I had to pass these physical and educational tests, and had no problem with that. And I remember one thing, of course, got down to Nashville in the wintertime, in the spring, and everything was dark, black. They burn coal down there for their fuel. And the ashes from the burning the coal dust make the snow very dark. Of course, upstate New York, we didn't have that. And snow was nice and clean. So that was my big impression at Nashville in the wintertime. It was awful dirty, cold.
Going to Nashville, was that the first time you had traveled out of New York area?
Yes. Yeah. Aside from, of course, when I was a kid, remember my uncle, he worked as a Greyhound agent in Ogdensburg, and he'd take us up into Canada, up into Quebec, to see the Parliament buildings and the redcoats and the flowers in the springtime up there are beautiful. And at that time, there wasn't a bridge going across the river there at Ogdensburg, so we had to take a ferry across the river, St. Lawrence River, and then take the bus on up to Ottawa. So that was one of my nice memories.
When you were in Nashville, you were still with the cadet program, trying to become a pilot?
Yes.
Where did you go after spending time in Nashville?
Well, it was, my basic training in cadets was in the capital, Montgomery, Alabama. And so that was basic training. And they taught us how to eat the square meal. And
was that Camp Van Dorn?
I don't remember.
Okay. So when did you end up washing out of the cadet pilot program?
Well, before I leave that, it's one of my favorite memories at Montgomery, Alabama, was when President Roosevelt came to visit, and he inspected the troops. And that was a very strong memory I had. We respected him very much, and of course he was in his wheelchair. He was transported by car, you know.
Did you see him?
Yes. Not up close, but as he inspected the troops, we were so I went through the school. There was quite a bit of schooling there at Montgomery, Alabama. And so from there we went to what they call primary training, pilot training, in Arcadia, Florida. And I got about 10 hours of training, and I have a record of the time I spent in the air, pre-flight training at Arcadia. And at the end, at the time I finished, they had no longer need for pilots. My instructor lost out all of his trainees. No one passed. So
no reason, just because they didn't need them.
Well, they said we were able, unfit for aerial combat, was what he said. And of course, later on we got trained on the gunner school and radio operator, and ended up overseas in aerial combat. So it's just a matter of they just didn't need him. Wasn't only him, all of its instructors. You had to be super special to get through the course at that time.
Where did you go from Arcadia, Florida, to learn to become a gunner?
Well, the first place we went to Scottsfield, Illinois for radio training, and just outside of St. Louis. And that was a good town for the GIs, because they had a USO there, and they were very active, and they were very, very generous, very kind, and they had a lot of things to see.
Did you see any shows?
No, I wasn't particularly into the zoos, that type of thing. So, guess I wasn't too interested in shows back then. If they had them, I don't remember. But the USO shows, and of course I was 18, more interested in girls than going to shows. So,
when you were in Illinois, did you Make any friends there at the radio school?
I don't remember any, no.
Okay.
No.
From there to where did you head to?
Well, from radio school, once I completed my 2 or 3 there, that was went to gunnery school.
Where's that?
That's Tyndall, Air Force Base in Florida.
Okay.
And they were into, that's enjoyable. Trained on the 50 caliber machine guns, and they had us shotgun instead of shooting from a stationary target. Like they put us in jeeps and run around the track, and as we came around, they'd shoot these clay pigeons up, and you'd shoot at them. And that was fun, and I enjoyed that. And
had you shot a big gun like that before?
Yeah. I was not big, like shotgun. Yeah, I've been hunting with my uncle there in Binghamton.
All right.
And we shot pheasants and went deer hunting. Never shot a deer, but though he did, I was with a group that did.
After gunnery school, where did you head toward?
Well, I guess by the time I was trained in radio, I was trained in gunnery school. I must have been assigned to the Air Force, assigned to my crew to go overseas.
Did you join the crew that you would fly with overseas?
Yes, we joined. I remember we had of course, the plane that we flew in overseas was not the plane that we flew in during the missions. We piloted that plane over, so it would be there to start D-Day. But we got together at Westover Field in Holyoke, Massachusetts, where we trained probably a month of training. We drew up with flights and got to know the airplane, we got to know the crew, and
you were flying a B-24?
Yeah, we were flying a B-24, which was the one that we took over.
Can you name your crew?
Name my crew? I have it. I think I have it listed down over here, all the names of the crews. Why don't I get that?
Let's stop for a moment.
Remember, I have the names written down somewhere, but my pilot was, of course, Roy Sauer, and I have a navigator, O'Malley.
O'Mallory?
Yeah, O'Malley. He was an Irishman. He liked his Irish whiskey. And my co-pilot named was Garvin.
Jarvin?
Garvin. Gus, they call him. We call him Gus.
Okay.
Zolman was the name of my bombardier. Zolman. Z-O-L-M-A-N. My Bombay belly turret, ball turret, Tony Bora, B-O-R-R-A. Orn was one of my race gunners.
Orn?
Orn. Bud Orn, O-R-N. Tim Ellis was the name of my tail gunner.
What was his name?
Tim Ellis.
Harris?
E-L-L-I-S.
E-L-L-I-S. Ellis.
Ellis.
Tail.
Tail.
Okay.
Another was gunner was Nutter.
Nutter.
Uh-huh.
What was his first name?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got it written down there. So it's, how many names I have?
9, including you.
And I was the radio operator, of course. So should be a total of 10.
One more.
Probably the flight engineer. Do I have the flight engineer?
No.
That's, his name is Bill. I had the name somewhere.
Bill?
His name is Bill. I know I have it here somewhere, written down.
Can you tell me a little bit about your pilot, Roy Shower?
Yes. I have a favorite story that I tell about him. He had been in the service before the Air Force. He had been with the artillery up in Alaska. And he decided he wanted to be a pilot, so he went into pilot training. And he's a very, very good pilot. I think so, anyway. And I remember one of the missions, we were on Munich. The flak was very, very heavy. Quite often, in artillery, you get on a target and you track them. But there were so many planes in the air that day, the Germans just flew up a barrage of flak. And all you see was this big cloud of bright cloud of the bombs exploded, out of the aircraft exploded. And so I was stationed right behind the pilot. And I looked up. I said, "Where are we going?" And he pointed right to the middle. He said, "We're going right through there." I said, "Oh my God." And flak was flying all around us. There'd be a burst off to the left. He would aim the plane right towards that burst. Another burst off to the right. He would aim the plane right for that burst. So we snaked our way through the anti-aircraft bombs. I said, why are we doing this? He says, in anti-aircraft, I was taught, we never shoot the same place twice. So whenever a burst was close to us, and we could feel it, he would drift the plane right up. He would aim for that spot. And I said, "Boy, that's my boy." We had a few hits on the plane, but we made it back. So that was my favorite story about my pilot.
How about O'Mallory?
O'Mallory, he was a wonderful guy. He was a navigator. He was an Irishman himself. Because we spent a month after we got overseas as indoctrination. We spent that in Ireland. And I remember he was able to get hold of some good Irish whiskey over there while he was there. But that was a special occasion. He wouldn't let anybody have a taste of that. But I remember one of the missions we came back, and had a pretty rough time. So he said, "Well, today's the day we're going to open up that bottle." Of course, over officers were in one area of the base, enlisted men was in another area. So we had our own drinks, and they had their drinks. But after we got sauced up pretty good, we decided to go over and see what they were drinking. And we found his barracks, and he invited us in and gave us a drink. And I'll tell you, that Irish whiskey was something I've never had before. I was almost to the point of sobering me up. It brought me right up. It brought me to. And I don't remember much after that, but I made it back to my barracks. And that was one of my favorite stories about my navigator. He was a great guy. We loved him.
How about Gus Garvin, your co-pilot?
Gus, He was a young man like myself. And I met him this guy we saw down in Myrtle Beach. He has a place, lives on an island down there outside of Charleston. And so he came up and visited us. He's gained a lot of weight. He's bald, didn't have any hair, just like me. And had a nice wife. And later on, we stopped at his place and visited him at his house. They took us out, my wife and I, out to dinner. He had built his own house down there on the island. And we haven't corresponded the last few years, but he's on email, so we email him once in a while. So,
What can you tell me about your bombardier, Mr. Zorman?
Zorman? Well, I don't remember an awful lot, but I do remember when he passed away. We got a letter from Gus Garvin saying that he had passed away, and that gave us his wife's name and address. So when he came back from the service, he went back, he decided he wanted to go back. So, of course, he went over as a bombardier, and he said, I wanted to go back as a pilot. So he got trained, went back into training for pilot training and fighters. And he went back overseas as a fighter pilot. And Oslo, he had many, many missions as a fighter pilot after. So that's the end of my story. But that really impressed me, how dedicated a man he was.
How about Tony Bora?
Tony Bora?
Ball turret guy. Where was he from?
He was from a little town in New York, Cayuga. And I talked to him about 2 years ago. I called him up on the phone. And he was, I think he'd had about 5 sons, and his wife had died. And he,
Did he have any interesting traits as a flyer?
Well, of course, one of the traits that a ball turret had to have was he was small. So, no, he was a likable guy. In fact, we, as a crew, we had 35 missions together, pressure training. We got to know each other very well, and we didn't have any conflicts between it. So we were all good friends.
How about Bud Orn?
Bud, he was my favorite.
Why?
I was closest to him. And when we came back, of course he was married before he went overseas. And when he came back, he and his wife had a boy, and they named him after me. So that was special. He had, of course, other children after that, but he had one son that named after me. And
what can you tell me about Tim Ellis?
Tim? Tim was a tail gunner, and we had fun with Tim. The pilot had fun with him, because he gets seasick, nauseous, and the pilot intensely up and down, up and down. And those teams here on the intercom, hey, cut that out. So it's, but that was my favorite memory of Tim. He was seasick.
How about your other waist gunner, Mr. Nutter?
Well, he was a clown. He was just a bundle of laughs. He kept us entertained.
Would he be called the clown of the crew?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Jokes all the time?
Yeah, he was just happy, and he was just fun to be with.
Now, how about Bill, your flight engineer?
Oh, he was more the serious type. He was very, very dedicated, good engineer. And, as I say, we shared the upper turret because we were very fortunate at the time we were there. We didn't have too much any aircraft. It was in the several times we had them in the area, but I don't recall ever needing to shoot at any planes. So thank God for that.
So you never had to shoot in anger?
No, I never had to shoot.
But you shot a lot training.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that,
How would you categorize you in the crew?
oh, I was just a young young kid.
Were everybody else older and you were the youngster?
Well, I guess I was pretty young. I was probably as young as I am. You can tell by the enlisted men, I was pretty young.
We're going to stop the tape here and start a new one. To England.
Well, after we completed our training on the brand new B-24 at Holyoke, we started over. We flew from Holyoke up to Goose Bay, Labrador, and from Goose Bay up past Tui, over past Ireland, past Iceland, over to past to Ireland. I guess we went the Grand Circle route, which is the flight everybody took.
Did you fly as an individual plane or as a group?
We flew as an individual plane, and one of the things that when we got to Goose Bay, Labrador, it had about 3 feet of snow that night before, and of course I was used to snow, so that didn't bother me too much. But it was about the crew and everybody had to put up with the cold and discomfort there. But we didn't stay there. We just refueled and went on, and so it really the flight overseas was pretty much uneventful till we got to Ireland. And
how long did you stay in Ireland?
Probably close to a month.
And can you recall what year you got there or what month?
Yeah, it's May of 44.
44.
I think the exact date probably on the discharge when we went over. And we were indoctrinated for about a month. And I think it was more resting up, and I guess it was probably indoctrination. I don't remember too much about it.
Then where did you go from Ireland?
Well, from this was in Northern Ireland where we got indoctrinated. We went from there down to Dublin. Took a train down to Dublin, and where we took a ferry from Dublin across the I don't know what body of water it is, but from there over to England. And one of the stories I have about that is the officers and enlisted men were more or less separated. As officers prayed in one quarters while the enlisted men were in another quarters. But the crew of 10 men, 6 enlisted men and 4 officers, had to split them up half and half on the ferry going across. And of course the officers always got the best food, the best facilities. At least we thought so at the time. But I was chosen as the odd man from the enlisted men to go down and share the trip over across the Irish Sea with the officers. So I felt sort of privileged that I was picked. Probably it was a choice between the flight engineer and myself, because we were both staff sergeants. So, but anyway, that was what I remember about my flight overseas. And I think that we landed over in from Dublin, I think it was to Burlington on the west coast of England. And it took a train across England to Bungay, or the base we were at. And
Where was that base?
Bungay, it was on the east coast of England. And
What was the nearest city?
it was right in, I don't remember. But it was interesting. When I was in college, I roomed with Henry Niebuhr and another friend that happened to be with the 8th Air Force at the time. He was on the ground, and he was telling me that he got over there the first part of June. Of course, D-Day was the 5th of June, and he said he was amazed that the sky was so black with airplanes, with bombers. They load up their bombs in the morning, fly over, drop their bombs, come back, load up, go back over. He said that sky was full of bombers all day long. And in college, we never talked about it. So my two friends I roomed with, both of us in the Air Force, neither one of us even talked about it. And,
When you got there and you arrived at your base,
yes.
did you know what airplane you were going to fly?
No, we did not know.
When did you find out?
Probably the first day we went up on a mission. They assigned us a plane. And
You remember the name of that plane or number?
probably the plane that we took over to the coffee run to Paris that day was probably the same plane.
Did you fly any special plane when you flew?
No. Most of the time we kept the same plane. Though.
Can you describe your first mission over Paris, which was your first mission on your sheet here? You went to Paris with 500-pound bombs. How did you feel?
Probably scared. Was there any flak on that mission?
You said light flak.
Yeah. Of course, that was the first time that I experienced being shot at, and anybody that had been shot at with flak, you could feel the airplane. Mine was a pretty heavy plane, and you had concussion from the shells underneath it, raising the plane. It gave me quite a thrill for the first time. And, of course, at the time, I'm sure we were scared. And nothing wrong with being scared.
Can you tell me some of the incidences that you experienced on your missions?
Actually, the very first day before we started the mission, when we landed at that Bungay, flights coming back from the mission that day, one of them had a direct hit on the ball turret. And there wasn't much left in the ball turret or the guy that was in it. And that left a very big impression on us, that how serious this business was. It wasn't a game. It was, so that's the way we started out our mission, was seeing a plane coming in that was pretty badly beat up.
Were there pieces of body hanging into
Well,
place?
we didn't go into that. I don't remember. I don't think we got up that close. But one of the missions that we were on was when we bombed St. Lo, Cain, we dropped fragmentary bombs on the troops, German troops.
At St. Lo?
St. Lo and Cain. And that was probably the fourth or fifth mission that we were on. The thing that was scary about that, for the fragmentary bombs to be effective, they had to be dropped at a lower altitude than the bigger, heavier bombs. And because they were adjusted so they would explode maybe 6 to 8 feet above the ground, so that the bombs would spread and really decimate the troops on the ground. And you'd almost see like be a good way to plow the field, because you go down there after the bombs are dropped, and the whole field would be just one big turmoil of bombs. At 12,000 feet, we were dead ducks, so to speak. The anti-aircraft had a bit much closer target than we were up at 20,000 feet. And we saw 2 or 3 planes just integrate, a direct hit.
You mentioned on your third flight that there were fighter escort, P-38s and P-47s.
Yes.
Did they help you any?
Oh, well, yes. One thing about the fighter escorts, when any enemy aircraft were in the area, they protected us from the enemy aircraft. I mean, they kept. In fact, I've read some of the stories that other crews have had, where the enemy aircraft, the enemy planes were attacking them, and they were being chased away by our friendly fighter planes.
Did you see those fighter planes go after any enemy aircraft?
I did not see them actually attack any of the other planes. There is a story later on where quite often the enemy aircraft fighter planes would attack individual planes that may have dropped out due to various reasons. And one of the days we had to drop out because our oxygen went out and we could not keep up with the altitude with the rest of the crew, so we had to turn around and come back. I think in that particular mission we were over France at the time that the oxygen went out, and we knew that there was railroad jobs, so we didn't want to take the bombs back, so we bombed a railroad job, knowing this would disrupt the transportation between Germany and France. So we dropped our bombs and headed back home by ourselves. And before we hit the channel, P-38 was off to our wing. He wanted to know if we needed any help. And we said, no, we're doing fine. And nice to see you. And of course, P-38 has two engines. One of his engines had been knocked out, and he was flying back with just one engine. So it was a welcome sight to see him. And we got to the English Channel. He said, well, sorry folks, he said, I'm going to have to leave you, I'm getting low on fuel. And he took off, and I hope he made it. I assumed that he did, but it was nice to see him out there.
In one of your missions, you mentioned about dropping behind and had trouble releasing your bombs. Can you tell me about that mission?
Well, the biggest thing I remember about that was, I'm sure you saw the inside of a B-24, and the catwalk was probably about, if I remember, only about 8 inches wide. But we had to go out into the Bombay, and they had a hand crank. And it was at the time where we had to go out to the Bombay and crank up the Bombay doors.
Trouble releasing bombs, dropped behind and came back alone.
Okay. So I think there were a couple of times when we had to get out there in the Bombay and No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which time that was.
How did you have to get the bombs out?
Well, one of the things we had to do was make sure that the bomb bay doors were open.
Right.
And I guess...
So one of the times bomb bay doors did not open?
It was not all the way. Spread out from the hydraulic system wasn't too good on the B-24s. And that's probably one of the times I had to go up there and make sure the bomb bay doors were cranked up all the way. But again, we didn't drop them right there. We had to. It may have been the time we were bombing the railroad yard. We dropped the bombs. I don't think we wanted to bring the bombs back.
One of your missions here says light flak brought bombs back because of heavy clouds.
Oh, okay.
How did that feel, bringing bombs back to the base?
Well, in the first place, we didn't want to bring the bombs back. On the other hand, you just couldn't drop them indiscriminately, and we couldn't see where they dropped them. And our biggest concern was we wouldn't get credit for that mission, because we knew we had to try so many missions, and that. But as it turned out, it was they called it a sortie, and so they gave us credit for the mission, even though we didn't drop the bombs.
On your 10th mission, you say you saw 3 B-24s crash, hit by flak.
And that's probably the St. Louis, St. K, where we went in at 12,000 feet.
Bomb bay doors stuck open, went out in bomb bay, and cranked shut during that same mission. That's all you wrote. 12,000 feet, yeah.
Yeah, that was probably me to it.
What did it make you feel like when you saw 3 other airplanes get hit by flak and go down?
Well, we weren't too happy because I'm sure that some of those guys were our friends. And I think we were probably so scared that it could have been us.
Did you see anybody actually get killed?
No, we may have seen parachutes, but no, we actually didn't see anybody actually get killed, no.
When you got back to base after some of these flights, were there empty bunks?
Yeah, I'm sure there were. Yeah.
Any that you remember that were your friends?
I don't remember any of the close friends. There was, I think I mentioned a man's name once or twice that I got hurt or shot at or got injured. But
did you ever have any problems with your airplane trying to take off at the beginning of a mission?
Seemed to me there was one mission that maybe that was the mission that our oxygen supply, it wasn't takeoff trouble, it was just that we couldn't keep up with the rest of the group because of oxygen problems.
One mission says here that you were at the Kiel sub factory.
Oh, yes.
And it says 2 hits on ship. What does that mean?
That means a frac it was a submarine base in northern Germany, Kiel. And so the frac was very heavy, and aircraft. And a plane got hit.
Your plane got hit?
Oh, yeah, our plane got hit several times.
Did you lose an engine or anything?
No, no.
Where did the plane get hit?
I don't remember offhand. There was one time, I don't know whether I have it in there or not, but quite often during a bomb run, due to the fact that we had trouble with the bomb bay doors creeping down, that my job was to hold the bomb bay doors cranked up to make sure that they were stayed up. And so I had to leave my radio post and go down. And make sure that the bomb bay doors would help shut. And when I got back to my radio, right beside where I'd been sitting was a hole that would have been me if I had not been down there at the bomb bay. So it was that close to being hit by shrapnel.
Did you ever find any shrapnel in the airplane after a mission?
One other time, I got scared real bad. Not too far from where I sat was an oxygen tank, and a piece of shrapnel hit that oxygen tank, and of course it released the oxygen in it, and I thought I'd been hit, and it turned out, of course, I wasn't, but it made a pretty big noise, and so much the pilot turned around and wanted to know if I was all right, and I said, I'm not sure, but it turned out I was fine.
You have one here that says Slim hit in leg, not our crew. Who was Slim?
Well, okay, in our barracks, he was a guy that was in another plane, another enlisted man that was probably a race gunner, if I recall, and he got hit by the shrapnel, and so that was it. I guess he made it back home after that.
Did he go up again, or do you not know?
I don't think so. I doubt if he did. I lost track of him.
One of your missions says that Nip was hit, not in our crew. Who's Nip?
Again,
Don't remember.
just a friend that we had in our barracks. We stayed in Quonset huts.
Can you describe what those are?
Quonset huts? It was an aluminum, just an aluminum shell in the half moon. And because it had a stove in it and barracks. I don't remember too much about it except that was quite common back in those days to be stationed in a Quonset hut.
Was it wet
No.
or cold?
Well, no, we had a fire. We kept it.
I see your first mission started in July and ended in October,
July.
all the same year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And before we leave Europe, can you tell me what you did while you were at base? And did you go and see anything?
Now, during about halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through, they gave us a trip to London for an hour, rest and restoration.
Was it a couple hours away?
Yeah, a couple of hours away. And during our stay in London, we got to see some shows, and there were USO shows going on. We get to go dancing with some girls and relax and visit a few bars. And, one of the things that was, at that time, I was, of course, a young man, very impressed with the theater over there. The costumes that they had were very flimsy. In fact, a few of them had no costumes at all. But one thing that's different, these people who had no costumes were statues. They did not perform, they did not move. So that's what was very odd to me anyway. And so that was one impression I had of our trip to London. Of course, the other impression I had was the buzz bombs.
Tell me about those.
Well, the buzz bombs were pilotless aircraft made by the Germans, and they had little engines. It sounds like a very, I'm going to say, a Model T Ford type engines. You can hear them as they approach the the city, and they were just given enough fuel to last a certain amount of time, and when the fuel ran out, they dropped their load. They caused them the buzz bomb, because as long as you hear the buzz, you were in good shape, but when the buzz stopped, you knew you better get under cover, because
Did you see any?
we heard him. So, yeah, but we were in London, the alarm would go off, and you'd run for the shelter, and you'd hear the bombs going off, and you could hear the buzz bombs, and that was scary enough. But what was worse was right around they had rockets, and the rockets you didn't hear it; they were shot up and down, and they had no warning, except that because that was right around near the end when I was there. So we were a bit scared because you had no warning. But you'd hear the bombs when they went off. But
was your base ever bombed?
no, the base was never bombed. No. So they were more interested in the big towns like London, and I guess there were so many of us small bases, aircraft bases all over the place.
How many airplanes were based at your site?
I couldn't give you an exact number, I don't remember. But from the historian book that you have, you could pretty much narrow down how many it might be, how many people, how many squadrons there were. But that coffee run might be an idea to give you how many planes were there.
Well, tell me about the coffee run.
Of course, that was a milk run, because you didn't have to worry about enemy aircraft or people shooting at you. We were just carrying supplies over to France to make sure they had enough food. My particular plane, we carried coffee, so we called that a coffee run, because we carried coffee for the people over there. We were happy to do that, because it gave us a chance to have a nice fly. We didn't have to be up 10,000 feet. We could be practically ground level. In fact, we're practically just above ground level going over. So.
Did you visit Paris while you were nearby?
No, unfortunately, I would have liked to, but they didn't let us go. They kept us right at the plane.
Did you give any close ground support with your bombs at any time?
Well, just the low and change, the fragmentary bombs that we dropped. That was troop support. But
could you see any of our troops or their troops or
no,
armor?
Even at 12,000 feet, you couldn't.
While you were up in the air, did you have any good luck pieces with you?
No, not really. Yeah.
Did your crew, any person on your crew, have the
I
good
don't
luck?
remember. Of course, back in those days, I smoked quite a bit, and the cigarette lighter I had was very good, and a pilot and co-pilot, they all smoked also, and so my lighter was right when no one else's worked. So as soon as we get down to a certain altitude, my pilot would say, "Hey, light me up a cigarette." So I get my lighter out and light up a cigarette. So that was one of the memories I have of sort of fun. We were actually after the bomb was over. At that time we were low enough we'd be back home.
Did you stay in touch with your family when you were overseas?
No. I wrote letters, so one disappointment I had was my mother was seriously ill at the time I was over there, And I wanted the Red Cross or somebody to help me send flowers or something to let them know that. And at that time, I wasn't able to make contact with anybody that would help me. And so it was a disappointment I had. And I guess I got over it.
Did you ever see her again?
My mother, oh yes.
So she survived?
She survived.
Okay. What was the food like at the base?
Well, I'd say it's okay, but nothing special.
Was it better than the food here in the States while you were training?
No.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Yeah, we were okay. Had plenty of supplies.
Was there any particularly humorous event that occurred to you while you were overseas?
Over in Europe. I don't know if it's humorous. I had a brother-in-law who was a nurse that was stationed over there, and I had a nice trip took a train across over to Manchester, where he was stationed, and I got to visit my brother-in-law and some of his friends, and that was a very nice trip.
Did you pull any pranks, or anybody pull any pranks on you?
I don't recall. It was pretty serious business.
Did you keep a personal diary while you were over there?
Not a personal diary, no.
How about for radio diaries? Did you keep a radio log?
No, because we were trained on radio with our code. We had to take pass so many words a minute, and had to know how to fix radios. And of course, that was before the tube days, and there wasn't too much you could do to fix them. Just replace certain parts, certain segments. But we very seldom used our code. Maybe the weather would come over on code and you'd copy down the weather report or something like that. But most of the transmissions when I was over there was by voice. So, of course, the pilot and co-pilot had privy to any message that came across. So there was no need for me to copy any log. And so I guess we were primary, except for any details that might have like code, very, very few. And probably biggest thing that was fix the radio if something went wrong with it. And of course our secondary duty was to man the top turret gunner if we needed to.
Did you ever have to fix the radio?
Seems to me once or twice that we had problems.
Do you recall what your crew did after its last mission 35?
No, but I remember the last mission that my pilot was on. We had frac coming in, and some shrapnel came through, hit the plane, came through the front boiler plate, so to speak, in front of the pilot, and hit him in the leg and dropped to the ground. It didn't injure him, it gave him a little sting, but he did not get injured. So that's about as close as anybody got in our crew to being hit.
Did your crew celebrate or anything?
Oh, I'm sure we did.
You can't remember.
But
was your plane ever lead plane over Germany?
I think one of the times that he was lead squadron, they took turns. I think to me I remember that he was the lead squadron at one or two missions.
How did you feel knowing you were dropping bombs on targets? Did it bother you?
That didn't bother. No, we were so far away from any personal feeling that it didn't really bother us. What has bothered me more after being home and talking to some Germans that were down below us at the time we were dropping bombs. There were some engineers I worked with that said, oh yeah, I remember being bombed, and it happened to be in the towns that we had bombs, and it made you feel kind of funny. Hey, I dropped bombs on these people, so these were the people we were bombing.
When you were flying your early missions, it seems like it was just after D-Day.
Yes.
Did you see the Armada anytime?
Not really, no. It was about a month after D-Day, so.
When did you leave England to come home?
November of 44.
Did your entire crew come with you?
Yes.
How did you get back?
Another story. There were two crews that left Bungay to come back home. Normally, or quite often, in that circumstance, pilots and the officers would be in one ship, and the enlisted men would be in the other ship. But my pilot said, no, we've been through these missions together, we're going to go back together.
And you flew?
So we flew from one side of England, the east side, over to the west side, where we got onto commercial planes coming home. It was a very foggy day. The other crew crashed and killed everybody. We did that. We survived. It was very foggy, but we made it. So it was a very sad ending.
When you were flying most of your missions, did your airplane have a name or any artwork on the front of it?
I don't remember. Nothing spectacular.
When you came home from being in ETO for that 8 or so months, where did you go?
Fort Dix, New York. It was Atlantic City, pretty close. My sister, older sister June, met me there in November. Because after I had been released to go on furlough, go back home for, I think I was gone, pretty much a month I was able to go home. She picked me up and we started driving upstate, up the Hudson River, and we got as far as Poughkeepsie, New York, and hit a snowstorm. And so we went into Poughkeepsie and checked into our hotel. And so after we checked into the hotel, she went to my room, and I went to my room. She came down, I went up, I forget which way it was. We got together and we wanted to talk about all the things that had happened. And then we were both tired, so she went back, we separated, went back to our rooms. About half hour later, we got a knock on the door. Sir? She wanted to know if we were separated or if we were still together. They thought that she was a girlfriend. So it was sort of amusing that they were keeping tabs on us. But we got up next morning and continued up home. And,
did your mother have anything special for you?
Just hugs, kisses, just love.
What did you do for the 30 days you were at home?
Yes, I really don't remember.
What did you do after that when you had to report back?
I reported back, let's see. I went up to Reno, Nevada. I was trained on more advanced radio code, because first time through the Scott field, I probably got up to, well, maybe 12, 15 words a minute. Conductor, Reno, Nevada, Advanced Radio School, I got up over 20 words a minute.
And again, it was just doing code, not...
Well, also, in addition to code, advanced code, we were trained on radar. So now, there was Lorenz radar. Was, at that time, I had been assigned to the Air Transport Command over in India. And they had Lorenz navigational systems over there. And we were able to navigate using their Lorenz system. So we were trained on that. And so after I completed my training at Reno, they sent me back to Miami and sent me overseas.
From Miami?
Yeah.
Do you remember the boat you got on to head
flew.
west? Flew?
Yeah.
Where did you fly from? You fly from Miami to where?
Well, I remember we landed at Casablanca, Africa.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether it was Libya. But anyway, we ended up in India.
So you headed
We flew.
headed east to get to India.
Yeah. We flew all the way over, different stops. Probably Cairo. I'm sure we stopped at Cairo. I know we stopped at Cairo several times, quite a few times. But I remember one of the very few times we stopped at Cairo, we got off the bus that brought us from the airfield into town, and all the merchants were gathered around, wanting to sell us knives and guns and sell us stuff. And also wanted to make sure that if we wanted any women, we'd know where to go. But aside from that, I don't remember too much about it.
When you got to India, what unit did you join?
It was the air transport. I don't remember.
It was called Air Transport?
The Army Air Transport Division.
What was your first impression of that base?
Well, one thing that was different was the 8th Air Force. I had a crew. I had the same pilot, same co-pilot, same friends. With the Air Transport Command, you never knew from one day to the next who your pilot was going to be, who the co-pilot was going to be. That's basically, it was just pilot, co-pilot, and the radio operator. That was it. And so it was quite a different situation.
What airplanes did you fly?
C-46s and C-47s. And C-47 was almost fly by itself, very, very stable. The C-46s, it carry a heavier load than the C-47, but it was a good airplane too. I know one time we took off from the airport and just got up into the air and we lost an engine on takeoff. That was kind of scary, but the pilot circled around, we were able to come back and landed. So we spent the night there at that base.
Did you ever have to abort a mission and land at a different airport?
No.
Did you have to load the airplane with the supplies?
No, we did not have to load the airplane. That was...
What was your job assignment on the C-47?
Radio operator and, as I say, navigational aid on the using the Lorenz system. We've been trained down in Reno.
Did you see any enemy airplanes approaching?
No, they had no. At that time, the Japanese were pretty well taken care of. I think about the only thing I really remember seeing was truckloads of Japanese prisoners that were going from one base to another, but no contact with any Japanese or any airplanes.
Is there any one pilot that you flew with more than others?
No, I don't remember. No, as I say, you never knew from one day to the next which pilot or how many pilot. Well, which pilot you'd be flying with.
And how many flights do you estimate you took?
I kept no track of how many estimates. I saw a lot of interesting places.
Can you describe some of the places? And
Well, of course, in Cairo, it was interesting. The Red Sea, the Nile River, Taj Mahal, Agra, New Delhi, the capital of India, Karachi, a lot of interesting. To believe the caste system was very prevalent in Karachi. You were brought up poor, you stayed poor. No matter what your profession was, your father was, you were the same.
was that near your base?
No, Karachi was one of the bases that Karachi was actually on the west coast of India, and we were stationed more on the east coast. I say east side of India, before you go into China.
How did it feel to cross the Himalayas?
Well, there were times it was fun, sometimes it was exciting, especially during the monsoons. One of the things I never had seen before that I don't know if I could explain, but during the monsoons, you fly in heavy thunderstorms. And when the rain hit the windshield of the plane, you get a static condition, would light up. And it was very, very unusual, where if you can imagine, rain stopped hitting the plane, and the whole plane being in electrical charge, and static lights. And didn't happen very often, but I guess there was an explanation that any negative and positive charge getting together would produce a static electricity.
Could you ever tell what cargo you were carrying?
It didn't impress. Sometimes we did. Toilet paper, most anything that they needed.
Where in China did you land that impressed you the most? Or left an impression?
Biggest impression, of course, during the monsoons, heavy, heavy rain, and the airfields over in China. Or you better stay on the runway, because you step off the runway, you'd be stepping in a foot or two of mud. And the mud was the biggest impression I had of it. Because one thing about the food we had over in India, a lot of it was not very good. Frozen eggs, the eggs were not fresh. And so we got into China, and we got a chance to get some fresh eggs. So I enjoyed that.
So the food in China was actually better than in India?
Well, I guess the food in India was not too great.
Did you stay any nights over in China before you came back to India?
No, normally we didn't stay there. We dozed up and come back.
All in one day?
Yeah.
How long were the flights?
Maybe 2 or 3 hours. Because we'd take off right from the beginning of the Rideau Road and just fly over the hump, and a couple of hours over there, we'd be there. Of course, that was another interesting sight. we got a nice view when I was flying over there of Mount Everest. We ran into nice view of the mountains and Mount Everest. I guess that was one of the pluses that we had. Of course, we didn't have to worry about the enemy.
Were you under any time constraints about how many flights you had to make before you?
No, it was just there for the duration. And
when were you released?
after the war. So they had, once the war was, I think it was exactly August sometime, at the end of the war. And so we stayed on, had to stay on until, I think I came back October, November, something like that. And I had to go to bed.
Do you remember the day that's commonly called VE Day? Victory in Europe?
What day was that?
May of 1945, when the Germans surrendered.
I don't have a, I'm sure that I celebrated very, very happy. And,
How about when VJ Day occurred?
that was happier, because that pointed to the, I was closer to coming home. So that was, I wasn't particularly enthralled with being in the service. I didn't want that to be my lifetime. So as soon as the war was over, I wanted to go home.
So when you were released from the base in India, how did you get home?
We took a boat. I think we flew over to Karachi, where we picked up a boat. Came up through the Indian Sea, Red Sea, through the Mediterranean. Mediterranean's a beautiful, beautiful sea. Of course, the Red Sea was too. Saw a lot of flying fish in the Indian Ocean. It was a nice trip. And I signed up to work in the gallery on a troop ship. Because I said, oh boy, now's a chance to get some good food. And I did. And I enjoyed the Navy. Boys got to eat much better than the Army boys did. And fresh eggs and steaks. And I don't know how they did it, but by being working in the gallery, I was able to enjoy that. Up to a point, when I got to the Atlantic Ocean, it was November. November storms on the Atlantic Ocean. 20-foot waves. I was sick all the way across the ocean. I didn't enjoy the smell of food. The idea of working in the gallery when you had to prepare food was not too good.
When you got back to the States, where did you land?
It must have been in New York. I remember seeing the Statue of Liberty. What a blessing that was. That was wonderful.
Did you immediately get released and go home?
Pretty much.
What did you do when you got home? Did you pick up on a job?
No. I decided I wanted to go to college. And got home in November and started school, college. It was in January. The very next semester, anyway.
And what did you study in college?
Electrical engineering. And under the GI Bill of Rights. Never could have made it without them.
Did your service in the Air Corps help you with your future career?
Oh, I think so, because it probably pointed, at the time I got out of high school, I was more interested in chemistry. And by the time I got through radio school, I was more interested in the electrical engineering. So that's why I took up electrical engineering, and we went straight through 2 years and 10 months, 4 years of college. So we didn't take time for anything except getting married.
What was your job? What career did you get?
I worked for IBM, International Business Machines. I started out as a maintenance man working on IBM accounting machines. I then got trained on one of the first IBM binary computers, and then I guess the first 10 years I was basically working on IBM as a computer specialist, and then I got into system engineering, documentation, writing up test plans, actually helping perform test plans. I was more hardware orientated than software.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yes. When I first got home in Madrid, New York, I joined the Veterans Administration there. But they weren't very active. It was just a small group. And so when I left there, went to IBM, I didn't continue with the veterans until I got down to Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, I joined the Veterans American Legion there. And I remember marching in parades and being in the honor guard. And, again, once I left there, I had other things to do.
Did you have any final thoughts about your career in the Air Corps that you could give us?
Well, I was happy I was able to serve. Because one thing I learned, no other place in the world like America. It's the best place there is. And one thing that taught me was being in service was how to appreciate what we had here. And true, I got out of the service as quick as I could because I wanted to do other things. But no, I have no regrets. And I was a helper, happy in some small way I could help.
Well, thank you, Mr. Crump, for your time with the Veterans History Project.
Okay, thank you.